Hello and welcome to SignHealth's new mini-series. We have 3 events coming up. SignHealth have received funding from the Home Office. It's been fantastic support to set up these events. The focus of these events is to raise awareness about domestic abuse and to start the discussion so that people feel confident knowing what it is throughout the series. So after tonight, we'll have 2 more episodes. So there'll be 3 altogether, which will all be recorded, and once recorded will then be uploaded to SignHealth's website. So it means if you've missed information or you want to watch anything again, you can watch all 3 of the series online. So just to let you know, they will all be voiced over and captioned as well. Today we will be discussing personal stories of people who have been through domestic abuse. So they are survivors of domestic abuse. So it means we have 3 guests here tonight who we'll be discussing with and talking about their experiences, which they're willing to share with us and with you, whoever's watching online with us. First, I'd like to explain what is DA and why we use this sign, DA. So DA is domestic abuse. And just to unpick a little bit about what that means, domestic abuse can happen anywhere. So it's not only happening to us at home, but it can happen in any relationship or between family members. So it's not only happening in our home, but it can happen outside our home with other people we're in relationships with. So that is what a domestic abuse term covers. So domestic abuse can happen once as a single event, or it can happen multiple times throughout the period of a relationship. And so it can happen very frequently or very infrequently. But there is a number of different types of domestic abuse that can happen. For example, physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse or financial control, and it could be coercive and controlling behaviour through the relationship. Or it could be tracking and following you when you're out, which is called stalking. So being in this situation can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what age or gender you are, or what your sexuality is. It can happen to anybody. This topic that we're talking about today is very sensitive, and it is a live stream. So if you feel yourself watching and becoming emotionally traumatised or triggered, and maybe you want to talk to someone about what we've spoken about today, after this finishes, we will signpost later on to a website where there's information of who you can talk to and when you can get that support. So when this event finishes, we will pop that up on the screen for you to be able to access the support. So now it's time to meet the first survivor, Spiros.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
I've got some questions to ask you, if that's all right. So I wanted to ask you about your relationship. It was with your ex-partner. It wasn't a healthy relationship. So can you explain to us briefly what was your experience in that relationship?
So prior to meeting this partner, I'd met somebody else, a hearing partner, and that hadn't worked out well. So then I met this person a month later and thought, oh wow, it could be going well. And we thought, hold on, let's get together. But it just got worse and worse throughout the relationship. It was really, really bad. It was a time where I suffered greatly. I had a really bad experience.
Wow, so you use that term suffering. Can you give us some examples of what that felt like? What was that in your relationship?
So there was physical abuse. And they would get basically abusive if I said the wrong thing. And I didn't want to retaliate. I didn't want to be the one in trouble. There was verbal and emotional abuse. There was sexual abuse as well. Stalking, tracking. I think that's it.
Wow, so you said earlier it's difficult because you're a man in that role. So do you feel that society might think, oh, yeah, you're the problem in that relationship? So what do you think the difference is from the male and the female role?
Well, definitely. So obviously me and a female partner, she obviously looked lovely. She was portraying herself as a vulnerable type, whereas I came across sort of more strong and macho, I suppose. And then things would constantly happen between us, and like she would abuse me, but then put on this face where it looked like everything was perfect and okay. And I felt like as the man, you know, with the old-fashioned stereotypes, the man is the issue and the woman isn't, but men do suffer too.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely understand that. That's different. So throughout the relationship, how did you start to recognise that that wasn't healthy? Did you get support from SignHealth, or did you reach out for that support? Could you explain to us what that process was and what helped you to be able to leave that relationship?
So when I was going through this horrible time, I was just thinking positively and hoping things would improve. There was this little bit in the back of my mind, and I'd been to a workshop back in 2017, partly voluntary, a mixture of volunteers and staff there, and they were talking about domestic abuse. And I had a chat with somebody there, and they were explaining all these symptoms are domestic abuse, and they will be setting up a support group for men suffering from domestic abuse. And over this time period, I realised that actually, you know, things were getting worse. And so I sent an email in to SignHealth and said, you know, I need to talk about my experience. Somebody came along and I was able to offload everything, and wow, it was such an emotive time. And I went through so much and realised actually I was suffering from domestic abuse. And I tried a few things. Obviously, SignHealth told me, my mum told me, my friends told me, and saying I needed to end this relationship. And at the time I didn't. I was trying to get through this abuse and carry on. And then at the end, when it was all over, I realised that's brilliant. I cried. I just felt so much hope and relief that everything had finished.
Gosh, that sounds so hard to be going through a relationship like that. But it's good that you've had support from SignHealth and from your mum and your friends. Did that, you know, that's what helped you realise, wasn't it, that that isn't a healthy relationship? Because you knew before while you were going through it, and it was from that support that you got that. So what made you kind of continue that dedication to end the relationship?
Oh, brilliant question. So I had those 3 support mechanisms. It's hard because my partner's still going, oh no, I love you, I'm sorry, I love you. And then it makes you think, she's right, my family and friends and SignHealth are wrong. And I'm constantly battling in myself between the two, who's right, who's wrong. I felt a bit embarrassed as well. I felt like I didn't want to be a victim of domestic abuse. I felt confused about what was happening. I didn't know who was right, who was wrong. But at the end of the day, these 3 were right. And there was just so much going on. I felt guilty, and I realised, you know, what do I want to do? Do I want to carry on living? Do I want to die? And, you know, there was lots of things that had happened, and there was so much going on, and I really valued my family and friends' input, and I realised I needed this relationship to end, and that's how it stopped.
Thank you. So now you've ended that relationship, do you have a good life after this relationship? Do you still have the support from your family and friends and SignHealth? What do you feel the difference is from being in that relationship and now afterwards?
Well, since I've separated, obviously at first I was so tearful, it was horrible. I was thinking, who am I? I was so upset at the time. And it was really emotive and confusing time, and I just tried to build my life back. I had the support from SignHealth. I got back to socialising because my previous partner wouldn't let me socialise, and just over time things improved slowly. I'd say 3 to 4 months, and then wow, it's been brilliant.
Wow, thank you. So for any of the audience watching, there might be deaf men out there. What sort of tips would you share for them, or any advice if this was happening to them? What would your advice be?
Well, I know men often try and keep things to themselves, but really go to SignHealth. They will tell you the truth. If is what you experience domestic abuse, discuss it with your family, tell your friends and your family, be open, please be open, because they will help lead you through this time. A small ask, really, please tell the truth. Like the things with like physical, sexual abuse, your relationships, there were bits that I then discussed and realised, okay, this is what I'd been going through.
Wow, so really that explanation from SignHealth allowed you to kind of link that back to what your experience was. So if you didn't have that kind of support and information, would you still be in that situation? So would you advise people to contact SignHealth?
Definitely. SignHealth, close friends, family. Yeah, really, I mean, SignHealth are brilliant because they were so in depth. They explained everything so clearly. And also that abuse isn't just physical abuse. I didn't realise there were so many different parts of abuse.
Thank you so much. That's really, really useful. And to let the wider audience know as well where they can go for this support, and that they can be safe, that they can get out of these awful relationships. Thank you. So I will see you later for the Q&A section.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. So we now have the second person joining us, Lana. Hello,
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're
it's
welcome.
Really, really lovely to have you here. I've got a few questions for you, if that's all right. So your past relationship, you've been a survivor of domestic abuse. So what was your relationship like when you first got together?
Wow, so really, I just can't believe this has happened to me. I feel like it's impossible. I'm from a deaf family. I'm a strong person. I have a strong personality. Like, how did this happen to me? It's an impossible. And I met this partner when I was young. We were 17 at the time. They got married. I moved over to Switzerland. I was over there for a good 30 years. I divorced. I came back to the UK, and then we met up again. And I didn't know what had happened over the past 30 years in their life. All I could remember is when we were young and 17 and, great. Like, it felt lovely that we were together. And I didn't really realise what they were like.
Wow. So you mentioned that you met when you were very young, and then you went off, had a different relationship, then came back and got together. But you didn't realise what their behaviours were like. When did you realise? Was it after you got together? Could you explain what was it specifically that started making you think, this isn't right, it's not a healthy relationship to be in?
So we went to the same school, but we didn't go there at the same time. It was just sort of the mutual connections. And then when we got together, he was fantastic to me. It was brilliant. I moved back to the UK. He'd helped me apply for DLA, for the bus pass, for a flat and everything. It was brilliant. I had the support. I had someone to be with all the time. And then I realised I wanted to go out to my friends, and he'd say, what are you going out to your friends for? Why? And I'm saying, well, I miss my friends. I haven't seen them in 30 years. And he's saying, no, we're in a relationship. We need to stay together. He had 3 children. He made me stay at home to look after them. And that really confused me. I thought, that's not my role. That's his ex-wife or the mother of the children's role. I just didn't realise. I thought, okay, this is my new life. This must be what I need to do. And over time, things got more controlling. He controlled my time. I couldn't go out and see my friends. I had to be home on time. It just felt like I just was stuck in the house. I paid him £500 a month. I thought, the flat's expensive, they're like £1,000. I thought, oh, this is great. I can just give him like a discount and pay my way here. But then I thought, I've come from a divorced background, and now I just thought this was the new lifestyle. And it carried on for over 20 years.
Wow. So was that 20 years you were in that relationship? Did you start to notice anything like throughout the relationship? What specific things were happening that made you kind of worried about the relationship? Can you give us a couple of examples to maybe help the audience think about, what is a healthy relationship and what isn't a good relationship?
Yeah, so he stopped me going out to see my friends. I had to stay at home. He had such a bad temper. Like, it would make me frightened. I couldn't answer back. I couldn't say anything. So I tried to do things so he wouldn't lose his temper at me, so he wouldn't hit me. I was really submissive. I was really quiet. I didn't want to get him in that mood. I felt like things were back at me. He would say, shut up all the time. And he would like push me like this, push me and sort of slap me against my arm and my head. He was a bully. And he would swear and he'd say, oh, you this. I just felt like I had a thick skin and just got on with things, really. And I tried to ignore it. But, I just thought at the back of my mind, I realised that wasn't right. But then at the other side, I thought, but I'm here and we've got the house together, and I just didn't know what to do.
So interesting. We were talking about the different types of domestic abuse. It could be physical, financial. There's one word I wanted to ask you about: cognitive. Oh, let me just check. Dissonance.
Yeah.
So you talked about having those two sides of your brain thinking different things. Can you explain a little bit more about that so that people might be able to identify with it?
Yes. So when I finally got out, all my friends were saying, come on, what's the matter with you? Why did you stay for such a long time, for over 20 years? You've wasted your life. But I just felt like it was impossible to be able to plan to leave. I just wasn't able to. I was reading things about cognitive dissonance, and so, for example, where the government says, smoking's not good for you, eating unhealthily is not good for you, but there's other people who still think, nah, I'm smoking, I'm drinking for a good time, to relax, to eat something nice. There's that two parts of your brain. It's wrong, but you can't quite stop it. And that was the same for this. I knew he was a bully. I knew he was verbally abusive. He said horrible things. He just wasn't a nice person. But there was just so much that I knew in the back of my mind, these bits and pieces. But on the other hand, it's like, nah, let's just ignore that. I'm sure things will be fine. We've got a lovely house. I've got 2 dogs. We live by the sea. In this nice house, I only have to pay $500 in rent, which is cheap. And it then doesn't match up to that other part of your brain. And then you think, oh, I've been with him a long time. I can't get out. And it wasn't until I got support did I realise, hang on. There was an event with my sister and I realised, that's it. It's got to stop. I've got to leave.
Wow. So, as you said, you've gone through those different debates in your head, and you said you realised that event with your sister, you thought, that's it, last straw, and that made you leave the relationship and, end that. And did you get support from SignHealth? What support did you get?
So my ex abused me, and I sort of, just carried on through that. But it was when he abused my sister, I realised, no way, this can't be happening. My sister was crying, she left, and then after that event, the next day, I was in a mood, and he said, if you carry on being in a mood all day, you'll be in trouble. And I thought, hang on, I'm 70 here and you're treating me like a child. You know, my friends supported me. They took me away. I was able to calm down. I was able to, I thought basically these thoughts, they were all wrong. I accessed Deaf Hope. I looked online and saw the support that was out there. And I met a counsellor who said, you have to report it to the police. And I said, why? I'm fine. But they said, you need to get this police reference. That's really important. So I thought, oh, okay. In my life, I've never been in trouble with the police, but then I had to make contact with the police. 2 women came around and, you know, had a conversation. I wasn't the most comfortable at the time, but explained everything. And then once that was over, I realised, wow, because it was quite serious, because my money was in a joint account with his money. And then I realised, wow, like my sister said, you have to go to the bank. You need to explain you've been a victim of domestic abuse and domestic violence, and that you need to separate your accounts. So my sister is actually an interpreter in the legal setting, and so she supported me through this and went to the bank. You know, they phoned someone and I was able to get all my money out. And I was like, wow, okay, this is how important this reference is. And I was able to go to a solicitor and everything went so smoothly because of this. So it is really useful to go to the police to report something. I felt like, no, I'm fine. Physically, I'm fine. But actually, that was the best thing to do at the time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's such an important thing to get out there. So there's just one more thing, just linked to your relationship. Obviously, throughout your relationship, you're experiencing domestic abuse. And domestic abuse has many different types. But what sort of abuse do you feel you've experienced? Obviously, you've mentioned financial or physical harassment. What sort do you think you've experienced?
Probably all of them. Controlling money, controlling my social life, treating me badly in the house, keeping me there, just taking things to mind, just everything. I felt like I was always walking on eggshells. I didn't know if I was going to make him angry. I had to be so careful with what I did. So when I was with him, my weight was 7.3, and then I was able to put on weight when I left, and I realised I was eating the same things, but I was so stressed at the time that this weight was just falling off me. And I just want to show, like, I'm free now. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
I'm so appreciative that I'm free. I didn't realise back then, but now I do.
Thank you so much. So this is my last question. What would you tell anybody who's watching today online? What advice or tips would you give them if they're going through a similar relationship to what you went through?
So I think it's really important to find a good friend, a strong friend who can really support you. Because some friends, I didn't tell everybody. I felt like I couldn't tell them, I couldn't ask them. But I just needed that one person who had the knowledge of domestic violence and domestic abuse to support me. And I had them, I had my sister. I think it's really important to have family and friends. And they just pulled me out of that relationship. And it was really, really difficult. It was, especially with that cognitive dissonance and knowing, was I doing the right thing or not? It's impossible to believe, what part of you do you listen to? And I was so frightened to tell people, but it was horrible. But really, when I look back now, I think how it was so easy to leave in the end. The most difficult part is to walk out.
Wow, it was a difficult part to get through, but it's so good that you're out now. And so you'll be joining us later again for the Q&A. So now we have our third guest today. It's a little bit different because the person wants to remain anonymous. They don't want to share their face. So we have a deaf interpreter here today. So I will be looking off camera to the deaf person and the interpreter will relay the questions, the answers.
Hello.
So hello, how are you?
I'm really nervous, to be honest. I feel like I'm shaking.
I really, really appreciate you coming here today and for sharing your stories to help other deaf people. So thank you for coming. So I would like to ask, if it's okay, what was your relationship like? What was your experience like at that time with your ex?
So really, it was awful. It went on for such a long time, and then I just realised I need to get out. It was very complicated. I think because I realised, I just need to process, I just need to get through this. I was just trying to hide everything away, close all these boxes down and just try my best to get through it. And as soon as I opened it, it was so difficult and the relationship was just horrendous.
So how long were you in that relationship for? And what sort of domestic abuse did you recognise from that relationship? Was it financial or physical? Could you give us a few examples and how long you've been in that relationship?
So I was with that person for just under 10 years. And at first I noticed there was financial abuse. And they would say, oh no, that's an accident. I'll pay you the money back. Please buy me something else. Oh, I'll give you some extra. But then I realised it was always excuses, always controlling spending my money. But then I thought, oh no, there's a good reason. They said they'll pay me back. And then I realised, this isn't right. So yes, financial abuse. There was emotional abuse, psychological abuse.
Wow, so you've identified these different types of abuse throughout the relationship. Were you aware of SignHealth and the service that was available while you were going through that relationship?
No, not really. So I heard, SignHealth, but I didn't know what it was, what it included. I've always been an independent woman. Like, if I've ever had any problems, I've tried to get through them on my own. But with this relationship, I thought, I can't sort this out by myself. I can't carry on like this. And, then something happened and I thought, you know what, I need to leave. I got in contact with a local women's refuge and they got in contact with SignHealth.
Wow, so when you contacted SignHealth, can you explain what did SignHealth do to help you, to support you and, going through ending that relationship? What support did you receive? Could you just explain briefly?
So really, it's thinking processing the story, how did I go through all of this? SignHealth really, really helped me. I used to go to the gym with my ex-partner. He used to tease me and wind me up, and that would really anger me. But nothing would happen because it was such a public place until we got home, and that bullying continued. I'm also a black deaf woman, and I felt that really, other people around there in the community were mostly white, and I felt like that added an extra difficulty. I felt like, how am I going to stop this from happening and from continuing, and where do I go for support? I tried to calm down, and when I'd get a temper, I'd realise that they'd be filming me, and I'd think, why? And it wasn't until I got out and I saw a woman looking at me and I just felt so emotional. I was withdrawn. I felt like I can't approach somebody for help. And then I was pregnant and I'm sorry, it was horrible. The trauma, I never thought that this baby would actually get there because of the abuse. And I realised that, hang on, something clicked, something changed, and I thought me and the baby are in danger. Unfortunately, I lost the baby, but at that time I sort of met like the midwife. They were just so supportive. I'd met loads of different professionals at the time, all the doctors and everybody. And when I explained my story and what I'd been through, it was just so emotional. I was so tearful. And I'd realised, hang on a minute, what have I been through? If the professionals are recognising this, I can recognise this. And I realised that I wasn't alone. So I contacted a local agency at the time, who then contacted SignHealth. And SignHealth have been amazing. From the very start, all the way through, they've supported me to look for a house, to go to appointments. The support has been just constant. It's been fantastic support.
Wow, thank you. And obviously you mentioned SignHealth went with you through that process of applying for housing, getting that support. Like you said, just recognising that you're not alone. So for the audience out there who are watching today, is there any advice that you would give them, or any tips, anything you'd like to kind of share? Because you have the power of speech at the moment. Is there anything you'd like to offer?
Well, really, I just want to say, it doesn't matter who you are, what your job is, what your responsibilities are, what your life is, or what your life has been like up to this point. It really doesn't matter. Like, you need to think of you. Work together with other people for you. Like, to say it's all right, it's okay to feel emotional and vulnerable. People will help you. Say, I need help. Put your hand up. And honestly, to get through that, the support is amazing. It's honestly helped me to no end. And now I look back, I look at other women as well, and I just think they've asked me questions. I try and think about what my hopes are, what my wants are, my dreams and achievements, jobs, everything I think about. You need to try and focus on you. That will really, really help you. Don't just think, that I've been through domestic abuse. No, you need to see you as a person.
Thank you. It has been so valuable to listen to your tips. And like you say, just to remember, it's who you are. Doesn't matter what you have going on in your life, but that's really valuable advice. And you are valuable as yourself. So thank you very much. And again, if there's anything you've watched today that's made you feel emotional, or if there's, you'd like to talk to someone about what you've watched, we're a national service, so you can contact us. At the end, we'll give you that information. So we've now got all three guests here with us. So we have another person as well, Philippa, who's with us today, who works for SignHealth. And she works in the community team, so she is just checking on the phone at the moment to check if any questions have been sent in. Maybe we've got a lot. We might not have time for all of them, but we will pick some. So remember, we have 2 more sessions. So if we don't choose your question today, they might get answered in the next couple of sessions. So now I will hand over to Philippa and see if we've got any questions coming in. So we might be able to ask one of you to answer, or maybe if you feel you've got a good answer to it, you can volunteer. Brilliant. So we have a few questions, one for you, Spiros. How would you encourage other men going through the same situations to actually act on that and reach out for advice?
So initially I felt embarrassed, but just send that first email to SignHealth. No harm can come of it. And then they sort of pulled me in as such, and I felt like I was able to open up more and more each time I got support from them.
Brilliant, thank you. Just a general question to anybody who might have experienced stalking. Just want to know, what is stalking? Do you have experience of it, and are you able to share?
So Spiros has. So I had my ex track me through my phone, and they'd constantly say, "Where are you?" They knew where I was on the app. The same with socialising. They would be physically watching me while I was socialising. And the same with Instagram, Facebook. They would be constantly checking what I was doing. Same WhatsApp. When was I online? What was I doing? And they'd go, "What were you doing at this time? Well, why were you doing this?" They would literally ask my friends who they didn't know, like, "What's happened? Why have you been with them? Who are you? What have you been doing?" And honestly, it was just 24/7. It was constant that they were tracking me.
Do you also have something to add?
Yes, so that's made me think. Like with my mobile phone, I got a new mobile. They would take it away and say, "Oh, I'll help you with this," and install bits and pieces. Brilliant. I thought this was great. And then everything, when it sort of broke up, I thought, okay, I need to change this, I need to change that. And I thought, you know what? I don't know how to do anything with my phone. They've always done everything. I had to change so many apps, block them on like Facebook and everything. And then all of a sudden, I realised he was still looking at me through his computer. And because the account was open there, and then I had to try and block them again. And literally, it felt like 24/7 access, and I couldn't do it. And even like PayPal, like ordering clothes, I thought, oh no, it's with my old email, so my old password, and I had to go back. And really, it took me 2 months to sort out the phone and everything that had been linked to it.
Oh, and do you have anything more to add?
Yes, so for me, stalking wasn't like somebody just following you and watching you all the time. It was physically, and not even just tracking me all the time. So some examples, like an ex would constantly call me, and I'd try and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm busy. Do you mind texting me?" But they were adamant, "No, it's an urgent. You have to call. We have to talk now." So I would have to drop everything to answer, and would get up on video, and on this video call, and then they'd just be talking. I'd be like, "Really? This is a small thing. You could have texted me." And I realised, it was that control. They needed to call me, know where am I, what was my background, who am I with, and that's what they were doing.
Absolutely, thank you. And thank you again. Is there any more questions from the audience? Yes, we have one more. Talking about support from the police, how to access the police or report or get communication for the police.
So, for me, SignHealth told me to report to the police. 2 police officers came over with a laptop. At the time, it wasn't the easiest. It was an old laptop, and so it was wearing away, and it was hard to get the connection with an interpreter. So my friend translated for me. It's not always the easiest, but I would say you need to do it, really do. And I answered loads of questions, shared loads of information, and then same went to the solicitor. And again, not the easiest process, but it's so useful for you. It is to your benefit.
Absolutely. Do you have anything extra to add?
Well, to be honest, I haven't reached out to the police just yet. I'm in an ahhing whether I should report to the police. And really, at the back of my mind, I thought, you should. Because this person has committed a crime. And once we separated, I thought, do I need to report it? Looking back, I would have said I should have done. And I would tell anyone that you should. Just before you've split or just after you do, you need to report it there and then so it's not too late. Do you have anything?
Is there anything to add? That is so useful. Thank you both. And if you are planning to leave, that's really, really important. So in one of the next events, we do talk more about contact with the police. So Philippa, is there any more questions at this stage? Yeah, so one person has been through domestic abuse themselves. They've blocked the person, reported them to police. But they're looking for advice. They're still feeling that fear after ending the relationship. So we're looking for advice from the survivors.
So yeah, that's happened to me. We'd separated, and then it was hard to go back to social situations. And to be honest, it felt hard. They were sort of blaming me, making me look bad, and they'd been the abuser. And they quit the deaf world, and I felt that was a lot better. I was able to just get on with things.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. So really, it's really important to look at yourself as a person. That is so important. Not think about other people, like the ex and the threats and everything. Just put those aside. Those thoughts will subside. Think about yourself as a person, that you're strong, that you can get through this. And when the dark moments come, just think, brighter days will come as well. Please don't feel frightened. And me as well, the process with the police took a long time. And then after 3 months as well, after the domestic abuse, I thought, do I want to carry on with my life? And I thought, no, I want to stop this. I just want to continue with my life. I want to think this is over. This is 3 months. So much happened before that period. And that 3-month period was such a focus for me, and it was so difficult. And I was trying to think, okay, I've got to control my behaviour. I've got to do this, do that. And it was really difficult after the domestic abuse and the relationship had ended.
Any more to add? No? Philippa, back to you. Any more? So one person was going through hard contact with her ex and was feeling difficult when she was picking up and dropping off children from her ex, who she had suffered domestic abuse from.
Yeah, so I've been through a similar situation actually. So we're co-parenting, and it's tricky and it's complicated. At first I thought everything I had to do was to suit them, and I realised, no, they're still controlling me. So to try and get back and think I need to do things on my time and terms, that was difficult. The children going to school, and I'll drop them off in the morning, I'd let school know that I'd been through domestic abuse so that they were aware and that we had support from the school and for the children. And then, the parent would go and pick them up as well. So sometimes you do need to let other people know that you've been through domestic abuse so they know how to support you. How can they help you? What's best for the child? Think about the child as well. So that's why it's really important to put your hand up.
Brilliant. So back to Philippa, if there's any more. So some of you had support from SignHealth. What sort of support did you get? Did you go to workshops? Did you have remote support, face-to-face support? Who'd like to start?
I'll go. So there's brilliant, so many different support from SignHealth, for example, face-to-face, remote, women or men's groups, and the support could be from a man or a woman. I was very comfortable with the support that they provided. I didn't mind who. Alana's now saying, I think there was a women's domestic abuse support group, and that helped me build up my confidence and recognise the positives and the negatives. And it was just so supportive. It was lovely. I felt I'd be the only one, but to see other people in the same situation, and some of us now, we've made a good team, we're good friends, we've got our own little WhatsApp group, and it's so supportive. And the leader was just fantastic. They were open. I learnt so much from that woman and from this women's only group.
Brilliant. So we've got one more.
So like what they've said, there's so many different ways to access the service, face-to-face, remotely. If you feel like you don't really want to show your face, you don't know who's going to be on the other end, you can email. That's fine. They were happy to email back and forth. They will follow what you're comfortable with at the time and speed that you're comfortable. They won't force you that, right, you have to have a video call now. When you're ready, when you're confident, you can then feel like I can branch from text communication to video. They'll work on what you need, and SignHealth have been brilliant. They really have been fantastic support, and they know that you're a person going through this. They know that everybody has different scenarios and situations, but they work for you and for what's best for you. And honestly, they try their best to make sure that they match what everybody needs. They don't hurry you through the process at all. They take their time.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been a great discussion. So I think we've got time for one last question, Philippa. Oh, I'll try and merge these two into one then. So we've spoken about noticing different things, maybe red flags. How do you spot them early on in the relationship? And what would you tell to people who may not have experienced that before? What could they be doing now for younger people maybe out there?
Who goes? Lana. So I think education, schools, especially I think for deaf children, I don't think they have much knowledge on this, on domestic abuse or the scenarios. I mean, even as an adult, I knew what the term was. I thought, until I Googled it, I thought I was better than everyone. And then when I Googled it, I was so surprised at what all the symptoms were. You know, there's some friends who have gone through it too. They hadn't revealed that they had either. But really, I felt like I didn't have any knowledge of this. And it wasn't until after, when I was learning about it, did I think, whoa, okay. And I think more education is needed in the deaf community and more awareness is needed out there.
Brilliant.
So, like the term red flags as well, I feel like I know what that is. But then you think, hang on a minute, is this a red flag or not? And then you're not sure at the time and you're uncertain, is it not? And looking back, I think, of course it was a red flag. Like, come on. And like it was the same story again and again and again. Of course it's a red flag. But if you're not sure, that's why it's brilliant. You should talk to somebody else like SignHealth or to someone that you can trust and support. You need to get empowered and feel that you can get through domestic abuse, whether you're a man or a woman. I know there's so many films out there for hearing people and awareness, but for deaf people, there needs to be the same. There needs to be BSL clips. There needs to be educational videos. And even back at the time, I made a video and I thought, wow, okay, this is what domestic abuse is. And also, it's not just against women. And that's really important to know and to share.
Brilliant. And one more?
So I agree with both of them. I think there needs to be more awareness, more sort of pictures, posters, medias, books. Like last year, I started reading this book and I realised, wow, that's really helped me, because I feel like I was able to sort of step back and out of the situation and read the book and feel like, hang on, I went through something like this. And that helped me sort of process and pick up on different bits and pieces. And social media as well is key. But, you know, sometimes videos I just don't always look at. For me, books are the ones. Whereas Lana's saying sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm fed up with this and that. And one person may say, oh, you know, they're being angry, you're frightened, I can see this. They're trying to control you, they're trying to shut you up. But I never thought that at the time. It's only when you then see bits and hear bits and hear stories of people going through domestic abuse and the gaslighting and me thinking it was my fault and everything, I then look back and realise, why did I do that? How did I suffer this domestic abuse? And I feel like I don't want other people to go through that. It's not normal behaviour. This isn't right.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of that valuable information. And hopefully that's answered a lot of your questions that you had. I'm so sorry if we haven't had time to answer your questions, but hopefully over the next two events, it might help answer some of the questions that you have. And you can always ask again. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate your time.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And it's really been valuable to hear your stories. And I feel I've learned a lot for myself, and I'm sure the audience feel the same. And maybe you've just got some information in the back of your head for the future. So again, I just want to remind you, if any of you are feeling triggered or emotional about what you've seen today, please do contact somebody at SignHealth even. We will pop up a screen after we finish, which will show you the information of where you can get support. And we have a therapy service as well if you'd like support. So please make sure that you do use that information, or if you know someone going through it, you can also pass that information on. If you've got a laptop or a computer or phone, you'll be able to use your QR code and it will pop up with the information going forward. So you can always just save that on your phone for the future, or you can get in touch with us at any time. So that's the end of today's show. We will have 2 more live streams on Thursday the 14th of March with a different host, and we will be talking about a different topic, which will be how to access support services of domestic abuse if you're a survivor. For example, it could be how to contact someone in an emergency, and also how to record or report to the police. As Lana mentioned, how to get that reference number from the police and how that works. So there will be more explanation about how to do that on the 14th of March. And the third session will be how to find information or support if you're leaving a domestic abuse situation. And we'll speak to Refuge. So again, these series will be recorded and we will let you know when they're ready and when they'll be uploaded onto the website. We will use Facebook, Instagram and Twitter or X. So again, if you know a friend who needs support, please do share this information with them. So remember, just ask for support. Ask us if you're not feeling sure. If you have friends in the situation, you can contact SignHealth. There is information on our website, and we can support you to find local support as well. So thank you so much. Good night. Take care and support each other. Watch out for each other. Thank you.